Good morning, all you fancy digital media people. So I have a question for you. Who loves logistics? Not a lot of enthusiasm, really. So my job, let me grab this, is to tell you about aCommerce and why logistics is actually very sexy. So let me start with a simple question. Who loves to shop online? I'm going to assume everyone here does. So my real question is this. Who ever sits back and thinks about the magic that actually happens behind the scenes? Do you ever, when you shop, think about the warehouse in the background? About the guy that picks and packs your box? About the guy on the motorbike that actually delivers it to you? This is the magic that aCommerce does behind the scenes. It takes three things to do this. And I've put them all on one slide here. It takes a warehouse. It takes lots and lots and lots and lots of boxes. It takes a big, deep technology stack. And on top, this all exists on top of people, literally hundreds of people. If you combine all these three things together, you have the magic ingredient necessary to get that box from your online shopping cart to your front door. And that is what we do. So here's a quick summary of the aCommerce business. We are only 2 years old. We were founded almost exactly 2 years ago. And we were founded inside the offices of Ardent Capital, which I'll come back to in a moment. We're actually at almost 700 staff today in 2 years, which is a hiring challenge of epic proportions for anyone who's ever tried. We have 140 clients running on the platform now, including big brands like Insogo, thank you, but many others including Lazada, including L'Oreal, HP, and many others. We've raised almost $20 million in funding to date, most of that in a Series A year ago. And the first of several shameless plugs from me today, we are in the midst of a Series B fundraising of 30 million, which I'll come back to. All right, that should have some content on it. Let's see. So let me give you a real example. You have just bought some L'Oreal Maybelline lipstick online. What do we do for a customer like L'Oreal? Well, the answer is pretty much everything. It falls into two broad categories: demand generation, demand fulfillment. Demand generation really means acquiring the customer. So it means taking all of L'Oreal's online ad budget, and if you're a traditional agency, that's a frightening thing to hear. It means taking that budget, doing Facebook, Google, and other online campaigns. It means running all the channels for them, big important channels like Lazada, Zalora, Rakuten, etc. Channels that are unique to Southeast Asia, like Line Messenger. It means using all of that to acquire the customer. Then once you have them, it comes down to the fulfillment side of the process. Someone sits in a warehouse, packs that product into a box, that box gets on the back of a motorbike, and that motorbike drives to your front door, where you pay with some mechanism, usually cash in our part of the world, and where there's a call center that helps you if anything goes wrong. That's the actual mechanics of what happens. Now, all of this sits on a very deep proprietary technology stack. I'll give you two examples. Channel management. Southeast Asia is massively fragmented. We have at least a dozen channels in every market. This is very different from, say, the US or China. If you are a brand and you want to integrate with 100 channels, you can't. You have to work with someone. Same with shipping. You need at least a dozen shipping providers to get the optimal pricing for your packages. We manage the software that does that. So some brief background on Ardent. So aCommerce was built inside of Ardent. We're an operator VC that not just invests, but actually builds companies. We're operating with our investments in 7 countries across the region, and about a third of our 19 investments are things that we've built. And building means all the joys and pain of actually getting into the business and getting your hands dirty. And we do that where we see really big opportunities, of which aCommerce is my favorite example. My personal background is 20 years of nothing but internet. So I've seen at least one bubble burst. I don't think we're in one, but I hope we're not. And my role at aCommerce is to help with strategy and fundraising. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a visual tour in this theme of how do you build a unicorn in Southeast Asia. Well, here's our journey to date in pictures. I thought that would be more interesting than me talking. So here is the first ops center that we built. It was filthy, it was dirty, it was basic. And we scaled that to about 120 orders a day. We were very proud of the 25 clients that we had at that time. Now we're a little bit bigger. We have 7 fulfillment centers in 3 countries. This is our Thailand one. It's a fairly typical example of how we structure them. It's got a call center on site. It's got refrigerated areas. It's got everything you need to store and pack products. And at the front is 100 motorbikes and a dozen trucks. This is our second warehouse. In the 6 weeks since this photo was taken, it is now full. This is our second warehouse in Indonesia. This one is for Matahari Mall, which is the largest retailer in Indonesia. Now, if you're a digital media person like me, walking through one of these warehouses and seeing the number of boxes sitting in there is actually quite mind-blowing. To actually see where these bits and bytes become a box of product that goes out to someone, I would highly recommend you do that. It really opens your eyes as to literally the magic that happens behind the scenes. So today, 700 staff, just under, 7 fulfillment centers, 3 fully end-to-end operational infrastructures in Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines. You saw some great data in the presentation just before ours. Indonesia is stunningly big. It is growing insanely fast. We overinvested in Indonesia at the end of last year on assumption that it would exceed Thailand some point next year. It surpassed Thailand 2 months ago as the biggest e-commerce market. If you are thinking of doing anything in Southeast Asia, do not think about anything but Indonesia first. We've grown to a few more clients. Many of these brands you'd recognize. They're big companies that are wanting to sell to the people in Southeast Asia and don't want to deal with the pain of getting a warehouse, getting a call center, getting a payment gateway, getting a third-party logistics provider, etc., etc., etc. Why are we excited about this space? Well, I'm pleased from the previous presentation to say that these numbers are low. But the bottom line is this. We are starting from an incredibly low base. Let's say it's less than 1%. Let's say it's even 2%. We know for a fact, and I will stand here today and say this in public, I guarantee that we will get to 10% of retail being online in roughly the next 5 years. Guaranteed. That is a fact. So if that is the case, you may as well get into e-commerce. So I want to point out one particular trend about why e-commerce is taking off in this part of the world. If you think back 3 years ago, when someone bought something on the internet, the odds were 95% that they were in Bangkok or they were in Jakarta. Today, that number is less than 30%. That is a stunning shift. When a farmer on the outskirts of Chiang Mai in Thailand buys a big screen television, he is buying that on the internet. He is not buying it from a local retailer. That is a mind-boggling shift, and it's one of the catalysts that's driving this massive adoption of online shopping in our part of the world. So where are we in this journey? Well, we are right at that inflection point. We have solved the problem of internet access. We've solved it through smartphones and mobile broadband. And we are now dealing with solving the problem of basic fulfillment and logistics. And that is the piece of the problem that we focus on solving. And we've solved it now in 3 countries, addressing well over 300 million people. That means that the basics are there to grow without restriction. So here is our long-term vision. You want to come into Southeast Asia and sell your products to 600 million people. If you are an American yoga clothing manufacturer and you want to sell to the 600 million people in Southeast Asia, if we can go to those brands and say, sign one deal with one company, send us a couple of container loads of your product, and we will help you sell that to the entire audience in Southeast Asia, that is where we're heading. We are 2/3 of the way there today, and by middle of next year, we will be all the way there. So, as part of the theme of this event, looking at unicorns, I thought I'd run some back-of-the-envelope numbers to see, is e-commerce big enough? And is a provider like aCommerce able to grow to be worth $1 billion? And the answer is yes. Here's the numbers. 5 years from now, $50 billion in online retail. That's a conservative assumption. aCommerce needs to maintain its current roughly just under 2% market share to do $1 billion of GMV on the platform. Our net margin is around 20%. At any multiple around 5, that's $1 billion business. So e-commerce is big. So here's my shameless plug. We are in the midst of our Series B fundraise. We are in an incredibly powerful position. We are the #1 player in Thailand and Indonesia for end-to-end e-commerce. If you are a brand wanting to come in, if you are a retailer needing help, if you are an investor that wants to invest in a business that tracks directly with the growth of e-commerce in our region, and if you believe we will go from 1 to 10%, then please come and speak with me. That's it. Thank you very much.